very welcome also here now to session 2, to group 2. We have two very interesting contributions which show both on very different ways the implementation of result-based schemes for the future. We will start with Elisabeth Süßenbacher from the Austrian Ministry of Rural Development, giving us a look in the past and the future, how the ministry in Austria implemented this approach, how it works. And then secondly, we have also a very interesting lecture by Sönke Beckmann. There is a great idea in Germany, a new idea how to use the ecosystem services, the assessment of ecosystem services in forest pillar 1 in the eco scheme. Big discussion also since 2 days, because there is a solution in the European level, and we are very curious on both of you. We will start with Elisabeth Süßenbach from Austria. Elisabeth, maybe you can find a few words about yourself. You're working in the Ministry of Rural Development. You are responsible for agri-environment scheme, and also working, I think, on the Austrian strategic plan. But I hand over to you to introduce the most important things about yourself, by yourself, and the word is yours. The floor is yours.
I'm struggling to find Elizabeth.
The microphone has to be on, that we can listen to you.
Elizabeth, could you send a message in the chat, please? I'll send a message just to see if she's in the other meeting. Channels, contacts.
So she cannot speak.
Don't see her there now.
The host has turned the microphone off. Can somebody solve that?
See, she was never. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
It's
yes, exactly. We got my surname. There we go. There we go.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here today to share some experiences of the Austrian way of implementing the result-based approaches. My name is Elisabeth Süßenbacher. Wolfgang already introduced me. I'm working for the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, and I'm working in the Department of the Agri-Environmental Programs, and especially in the field of biodiversity and soil and climate issues. For my person, I'm an ecologist, so I'm also personally interested in reaching environmental targets by result-based approaches. So I'm gonna share my presentation with you. I hope this works. Can everybody? Yeah, in my presentation, I want to give you an overview about how we are implementing result-based approaches in our agri-environmental program. And before I start with this, I want to give you a small overview about the agricultural structure and the environmental status of Austria. So in the comparison to other EU member states, we are a rather small structured country in terms of agriculture. we have around 110,000 farms, and 80% of all the farms are participating in the agri-environment program. This high participation rate is also due to the fact that we have a very high amount of mountain areas in Austria, so we have a lot of less favored areas, and the CAP payments, and especially the rural development payments, they have a high share on the farm income in Austria. So we have also a very important nature conservation measure within the agri-environmental program. We have 19,000 farmers participating in this measure, and this measure is important for the result-based approach. You will hear it later on. The environmental status of Austria is quite good, but we do have problems. We also have declining biodiversity indicators, like the FBI, for example. It declined for 40% in the last decades. We have the declining high nature value farmland, similar to other EU member states. So we have the need for maybe for different payment schemes within the agri-environmental program. Just a few words about the implementation of the CAP now. What's important is that Austria is a so-called second pillar country. 2/3 of the CAP payments are spent for rural development measures. And within this rural development program, we have the most important measure in Austria is the agri-environmental program. About 40% of all the money of the second pillar is directly spent for agri-environment payments in Austria. We also have a high share, a really high share of organic farms, for example. And yeah, I already told you that we have a large environmental program. We have 24 different measures. They are addressing soils, climate, nature conservation, biodiversity, yeah. And one of these measures is the nature conservation measure. And within this nature conservation measure, we introduced a result-based approach. In the current period, it was started as a pilot project in the rural development program. And the Wolfgang Suske and his team were developing the content of this measure and also the technical administration. In 2014, this project was started with 16 farms who already participated in the nature conservation measure of our agri-environment program. And you can see here the green points. These are our farms. Now we are counting 150 farms who are taking part in this result-based approach. They are distributed all over Austria. And you can see these dark yellow areas. These are Natura 2000 areas. And there can be some linkage observed, you can see. So what's the key of the result-based approach in our nature conservation measure? On the one hand, we have this typical nature conservation goal. We want to have an agricultural area which is species rich, or we want to improve an ecological status, or we want to maintain a good ecological status. That's on the one hand the environmental objectives, but the result-based approach, as we are implementing it, we focus also very much on educational goals. So we want the farmer to understand nature conservation concerns. We want to understand the farmers why different management measures are important for maintaining or for improving the ecological status of an agricultural area. And with all this information we are providing the farmers, we give them the flexibility to choose their own management measures which are most suitable for the areas. So the heart of this result-based approach is information and advisory, and therefore we founded an expert team of ecologists who are really providing this information to the farmers. They are visiting every farmer who is participating in this project, and they take a closer look on the spot, and they are also defining together with the farmers specific objectives for every parcel. They are defining the control criteria, which are the basis for the on-the-spot checks, and they are also talking about optional management measures with the farmers. And all this information is collected into a personalized logbook for the farmers, and this is also important for the on-the-spot check. So here the whole measure is summarized once again. So you have this, the heart is the advisory and the information, and you have a great benefit in terms of education of the farmer. Just a short overview to the premium calculation. We calculate the premium. The basis for the calculation is the management of the areas. For example, if the nature conservation site is a wetland meadow, which is usually mown once a year, then we are calculating the premium based on the underlying management which is usual for such a habitat type. For example, for mowing it once a year, for the late first mowing, for the renunciation of nitrogen application, the farmer gets the payment. And we have a list for our, in the course of our nature conservation measure, we have a list for every management requirement, and all this, you can see it here, all these premiums together, they are, sorry, somebody's calling. All these premiums together, they count for the final premium. And for the higher planning efforts, farmers get a plus of 70 euros. And what's interesting in the new programming period of the CAP, the transaction costs, there won't be any limitation for the chargeable transaction costs. So this is interesting in terms of higher premium, maybe. What our conclusions and lessons learned from the result-based program, we learned that the result-based approaches cause a high administrative burden and also high costs, but they have the benefit that they do educate the farmers in terms of nature conservation. They raise awareness about environmental concerns, and this is also a benefit. So it's, on the one hand, it's an advantage, and on the other hand, a disadvantage. We also learned that result-based programs are not really suitable for large-scale programs, but they are very good for focused and training-oriented measures. The typical target groups are well-informed and interested farmers. And in terms of the result-based nature conservation plan, we also learned that it's very suitable for dynamic agricultural areas. So if you want to improve ecological status of an area, or if you want to regenerate an endangered habitat, then it's really a good approach, because the farmer is more flexible in terms of the management commitments. And yeah, that are the main lessons learned. Now let's take a look at the future CAP. As we all know, the European Commission, the DG Agri and the DG Environment, they are encouraging member states to implement result-based approaches. For example, it is stated in the EU biodiversity strategy that the biodiversity goals in agriculture, they should be met by result-based approaches in the CAP. So, and also in the CAP strategic plans within Article 65 and Article 28, it's recommended to develop and implement result-based approaches within the agro-environmental programs and eco schemes. So for the new period in Austria, we are planning, I'll give you a short outlook that we are planning in the future. We are planning two different approaches. On the one hand, we want to further develop our result-based nature conservation plan. We want to extend it in terms of other protected assets. We are thinking about the asset soil and the climate asset. It will be, we're planning to implement an independent agri-environmental measure, not within the nature conservation measure. It will be an independent measure. It will be called result-based management, and we are aiming at the participation rates of from 500 to 1,000 farmers. For the design of the content of this measure and for the technical implementation, there will be a corresponding rural development project started soon by Wolfgang Suske and his team, and they are developing a list of indicators for the protected assets, for biodiversity, soil and climate. And what's also important, in order to minimize the administrative burden, they want to prepare a digital tool for data documentation. As far as I am informed, they are planning to prepare an app where advisors and farmers, they can search the indicators for different habitat types, and more or less it's just minimization of the documentation effort they have in the logbook. So it will minimize the administrative burden of such a measure. And also important is the development of a concept for application and training. And the second approach, we are going to implement also the result-based payments in a very broad agri-environment measure, which is aiming at the preservation of permanent grassland. So that's a measure that will be will be all over Austria. Grassland areas will be involved, and we are planning a result-based top-up, which will be called species-rich grassland. And the farmers have to verify 5 indicator plants every year, which are associated with extensive management. So there will be a species list or a list of plant indicators in the background, and the plant indicators have to be evenly distributed among the agricultural area, and they have to ensure that the indicator plants can bloom. So these are the objectives they have to fulfill. And what's important of this top-up, it's a yearly application is possible. So the farmer can decide every year if he participates in this top-up or not, and there are no commitments in terms of management requirements. So the farmers decide the management options using their own knowledge and skills. And what's also important, this measure is only in this measure will only be integrated very productive grasslands areas with a slope gradient which is lower 18% and the productivity index higher than 20. Yeah. Thank you for your attention. I hope it was not too long. And if you have any questions, I'm happy if I can answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elisabeth. Maybe you can please close the presentation. Just press verlassen or leave not the meeting, but the presentation. But
yes.
No problem. Thank you very much for giving us this overview about the scheme which is running in Austria, and for some picture in the future. We have a few questions before we go on with Sönke. So please wait a moment with your presentation. I would like to hand over that partly to you, Elisabeth, because we prepared already an answer, and maybe it's possible to be in time that you just add if you have to add something. Is it okay for you?
Yes, of course.
Jure had the question, under which rural development measure you did finance the development of the result-based scheme the last years. So the answer is we financed that in Austria with Article 20. A question to Elisabeth. In future, it's of course not sure, but there are some options. Can you tell us something? Because this is maybe also interesting for the other participants.
Yeah. The options for rural development projects in the
yeah.
I think it will be this question, I'm sorry, I can't answer that, but I think it will be similar as in the current program period. I'm not sure.
As far as I know from your house, there is the option that it runs again in rural development measures, or in maybe also in the technical assistance.
No, I'm sorry,
question.
I'm not.
Yeah, it is no problem.
Maybe if I can add, I think it's Article 68 in the future program for investments, non-productive investments.
Okay.
I think also 71 for cooperation is quite important, where such projects could be financed. And yeah, probably something over Article 72, I think, which is for educational measures. I think that would be plenty of possibilities to include pilot projects on result-based payment schemes.
So another question was, I don't know from whom, because there was no name. Are there specific objectives in this scheme, in this result-based scheme, negotiated or set in some other way? So the objectives and the indicators are discussed on farm with the farmer, and so far not negotiated, but discussed. So we have this service on the farm, and the background of the service, the expert service on the farm is also that the farmer learns something, but also the expert learns something. So it's maybe not negotiated, but discussed and then fixed. Clara has the question, is the result-based agro is this scheme of the result-based approach in Austria agro-ecosystem specific, so only on certain grassland, only on wetlands, or some specific system of highlands, for example? Elizabeth, the answer is clear, or it's
yeah, it's not exclusively on these areas, but grassland, for example, it's very suitable, or livestock farming, pastures or meadows are for nature conservation, for the nature conservation plans. These are the typical areas where it's implemented. But for example, fallow land or fallow areas on arable land would also be an option, a good option, or a dynamic area.
Mm-hmm.
And in future, you can say maybe a few words to this, Wolfgang, but in future we are planning this approach also on arable land, because we have the new protected asset soil and climate, and for the enrichment of humus, arable land would be better than grassland, I guess.
Yeah. So there are planned new topics also, not only biodiversity, also soil protection and climate protection. Then there was a question from Verena: does the flexibility in this program include and encourage knowledge exchange between local and scientific knowledge? I would answer that with yes, because the experts who are on the farm, we have frequently meetings, also meetings with university, and we had network meetings between these experts and the farmers on the field or in the regions. The participation was very high. People were very interested in this. In these meetings, in these network meetings in the regions. And Derek asked how you considered farmers scoring their own farms. So meaning, do you also think that, or do you have some experience in that the farmers score more or less their own farm? We don't have that. We have these experts together with the farmers. Of course, he's monitoring and he's also looking at his indicators, so that yes, but not scoring. Scoring is done by the experts and fixed in a contract, and then followed by the farmer. Is that okay, Elizabeth?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He said, okay, that was more or less the questions from the chat. Two questions left. Elizabeth, this new program for Salzburg, for the intensive grassland, is that planned as a top up to the eco scheme?
No, it's within the agri-environmental program, but it's the farmers apply yearly, so they get it's a yearly measure within the agri-environmental program, but it's not the eco scheme, but it could be an eco scheme measure too.
Okay, so
yes. We are not
sure.
So far, we are not planning anything in the eco scheme with result-based.
For result-based, yeah.
Yeah.
Then a question from Derek again: have you considered water quality? Can I answer that shortly? Not now. And we are not planning that, Elizabeth. I don't know if you are there on the new discussion. We had a meeting, a seminar, where the topic water was for us too complicated because of to find the reasons who is responsible for the water quality, because it's much more complicated for us than maybe for someone else. Maybe there are some ideas. Another question. There are questions running like. Any problems to construct calculations for the payments? Do you pay maximal rate according to calculations to farmers? So as Elizabeth told, the calculations are based on action-based, definitely. It's simplified, but they are calculated by actions and paid for the results. I have to be short in that because, and we are, how did you find it, the top to the limit of 450 euro per hectare under right development? We have maybe Elizabeth, you can explain that we have not 450, we have more.
Oh. We have around 600 or 700 for nature conservation areas. That's due to the higher efforts according transaction costs or something like that. But we have higher premiums, yeah.
So you can have higher premiums if you try to get them more or less exception what we did and successfully was also notified. So again, last question, then we have to stop. Is it not a problem to pay more than 450 as long as you motivate it to the communication? I don't know exactly what that means.
No.
Okay, it's okay. So we get an approval for our Elizabeth. Thank you very much for this contribution. I hope you stay longer to listen to our next expert. It's very interesting. We switch to Germany. Sönke, are you here? With your microphone is on. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3, Sönke. Maybe he has the same problem like Elizabeth. Maybe it's Burren program.
So can you hear me now?
Super. Yes, we can
Okay.
hear you. You are working in Deutschen Landschaftspflegeverband, and it's very embarrassing. I can't translate it. How you can do that then later. It's a great association doing a lot of work, and you have a good idea, especially for the eco scheme, implementing their ecosystem services with points. You will explain that, and I want to give the floor to you and to introduce yourself in a short way.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Wolfgang. Dear colleagues, thank you for invitation and for the possibility to present our idea. It's not our, we work together. So I see Remco from Netherlands, Hydro Remco. They've got a similar approach. So the title is From Eco Schemes to Agri-Environmental Programs, Possibilities and so on. And I will try to to concentrate on the first pillar because from my experience, agri-environmental schemes are well established. So I will present you our idea of a public goods bonus, a proposal for the qualification, quantification, and introduction of eco schemes in the CAP strategic plans. So to my person, I'm an official, but I was sent now to, and we call it Wolfgang Landcare Germany. It's the English word for Deutscher Verband für Landschaftspflege, sitting in the country store here in Kiel in Schleswig-Holstein, the most beautiful country in Germany, I know, next to the Baltic Sea. And I have been worked in administration in different ministries for nature conservation, agriculture, and so on here in Kiel, and for some time also in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, also in the managing authority for the second pillar. But now, as I told you, I'm working as an NGO with another view. So about Landcare Germany, so that you can understand how we are thinking, how we are thinking about the themes. Landcare Germany, first of all, is an umbrella organization of about 176 single Landcare organizations or cooperatives, how you may call it, since 1993. We care for practices that are beneficial for the cultural landscapes, nature, and also for the farmer. So it's a kind of spreading thinking, working on 3 principles of Landcare organization, and that's why we think a little bit out of the box. The parity constitution of the boards, they have to be farmers, conservationists, and local politicians. So that's a duty. That's the board must be constituted by these three representatives. They have to have territorial and cooperative structures and regional roots. So it's not new, but our experience is that this leads to mutual understanding, responsibility, and so on in the region, how to get things done. So that's the background of our thinking. So and that's our basic idea. Try to or our proposal is grounding on the aim of a performance and public goods orientated cap, and the public bonus. Therefore, the public bonus is we call it in German Gemeinwohlprämie. There are different translations. We call it public goods bonus on 3 clear priorities, which have to be thought together. So my view is a little bit bigger than a specialist. I myself call me what's it called in English, universal dilettante, you know. So try to spread the view and try to get the chance of the new cap about thinking about two Säulen, what's it called here, both directions. So first of all, the priority is, of course, the effective improvement of the environmental and climate situation in the agricultural landscapes. So we call it ecological intensification of the whole agriculture area. So we don't think only on this from the view of the farmer, but also of the skylark, for example. So thinking together. And we have lots of problems. Maybe in Austria, Elisabeth, you have another situation, but the situation, the environmental situation in Germany, and I think in whole Europe, is not very good. So second priority, to think from the view of the farm and the farmer, not from the administration, but from the farmer and the farmer, shifting decisions to farm level and strengthening the competence and responsibility. So that's our understanding, to think like an entrepreneurial aspects for stronger motivation. That's our experience. Give them more trust, give the farmers more playing roles, give them more room for own scoring, for example. There was one question behind here before. And at the end, our priority is a qualified system change in the logic of agricultural support in order to earn more additional effective public performances instead of just compensating for disadvantage. You know that principles in the second pillar. And direct payments with the watering can per hectare, you know the theme. So we try to change it with our proposal. Why? You know the facts. We have, as I told you, we've got negative trends of environmental situation in the agricultural area. You know about the decline of species diversity, ammonia, greenhouse emissions, and so on and so on. And you know it in the evaluation reports of every second pillar report in every country. We've got another situation, as you know, as in Austria, I think about nearly 20% of on the average of the whole EU, we have got here AECMs. And the question is, what about the rest of 80% in the average? In Germany, we have got nearly about 18 up to 20% of the whole area is, we have got AECM. So what's with the rest? So farmer, of course, you know it is part of the cause, but also part of the solution. He has a key role as a manager of the environment. In Germany, about the average of 54% of the whole area, agriculture area. In Schleswig-Holstein, for example, up to 70%. So looking for solutions, you must think from the view of the farmer. Flat rate payments, I just call them, per total eligible farm area instead of remuneration for concrete achievements per concrete area. So we still have the flat rate payments in the new cap proposal, and I think that's one reason or one thing we have to change. So we have lack of impact of the cap to stop loss of biodiversity. You know the report of the European Court of Auditors. you know, the report of the European Agency of Europe, Status of Nature. So the CAP post 2020 is focused on delivering and rewarding these public services, more ambitious than before, you know, Article 92 and so on. It's written on the paper. So I'm a little bit optimistic, but it is written there. So consequences. We are talking, when we talk about public goods, or when we talk about this situation, I think we have to talk about a new market of public goods. In Germany, you know, of these referendums. So we have got a social necessity in Germany. I don't know in the other member states, but we have a demand. We have I call it a new market, a second market for agriculture here, for agriculture practicals, and we have to think about enlarging farming profile and source of income. So we must spread the definition of agricultural working. But the question is, as you did also in your projects here in the network, how to remunerate these public goods and ecosystem services for all farmers. So not only for these 20% working with AECMs, but the aim must give all farmers a chance to develop the environmental situation. So for this, we must rate public goods. We have different systems and give them a price. That's the challenge for me. So point system can fix it, you know it, but we did it on, we tried it on the first pillar, on the eco schemes, because of the CAP proposal. We had a 3 years rescue here, research and development project paid by the Federal Ministry of Environment in Germany, and the results. I can't explain you all the details. So we have got we have published all results on our webpage. We have got a public good bonus, and we have got what's it called, Steckbriefe, special here briefings for all measures. You can find it on the webpage. So altogether, we propose 19 nationwide measures for arable land, grassland, special crops, farm gate balances. I will come to that later. We have got different scoring according to expected effects, and that's the different to the usual payments in opportunity costs. We look on the effects, on the concrete effects of the measures. There are lots of scientific presentations and results, and the Commission itself, I think it was 2017, they developed a so-called EFA calculator, I think, for the technical GAC, the research center, to have a look on the outcome of the EFA. So they also use a calculator and looking on the effects. So result orientation through points and introduction of a bonus for diversity of measures. This is a specification of our system, and we had some economical calculations for typical farms here in the northern part of Germany. So Professor Lattasch-Lohmann is always presented on the homepage. He told us, or he said when you pay about 50 euro per point, you have got most of the farmers start to think about. That's the main results of this project. I will come to some of them later. So what did we do? We took the challenge of the eco schemes is it is a main you've got a main, what's it called, main job. There are thousands of applications, and you have to select eco schemes that are first of all, which fit to usual farming. And you have, as I told at the beginning, you have to spread, or you have to think about both pillars now. So it's these, and we had a look on the experience with our AACMs in Schleswig-Holstein, further on in Germany, which of these measures have positive effects, which of them are very simple, or which of them fit in usual farming, which are more targeted and effective than before. Of course, they have these eco schemes have to be uniform nationwide, because in Germany the federal state is responsible for the first pillar, not the Bundesländer. They are responsible for the second pillar. So we have a kind of mixture of responsibility. They must be connectable to integrated application and control system, and also to the CMEF, to the monitoring system. So it's they must accessible for all farmers, and management guidelines. So we don't differ between conventional and ecological farmers. They have all the chance to pick up some measures out of the menu, how it fits to their farm. We have to respect this annual payment, but on the other side, multi-annual payments are possible. For example, currently honey fallowland, I think, for 3 years. So it's only a technical questions also to put multi-annual measures into the eco schemes. They have to be combinable with AACM and new conditionality, you know, about the baselines and no double funding and so. We have got special measures that here consider to individual farm landscape situations. This is a special point. So the development of the PGB methods, the experts or the colleagues of mine, they started about 10 years ago. So we have a slight development or evolution of this idea, always coming from the practice, always coming from the farms, always coming from practical thinking of administration. That's very, very important to see how it fits in the system, in the application system, in the official system. So they started with 2011 or 12 only with in Schleswig-Holstein for looking for benchmarks producing biodiversity, and the next here publications, you can find them on our homepage. First, as I told you, we started in Schleswig-Holstein and then tried to find out the feasibility for whole Germany. So at the end,
thank you. I have to tell you that you have to hurry up, because we have to leave very in time, and that we can answer some questions.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the entry to the system change of it's the eco schemes? As you know, they play a key role, as Mr. Timmermans or the days before the commissioner said. So this I call it positive meaning Trojan, you know, and to change this system. So basic principles, I will hurry up. We have got a point evaluation of biodiversity effects. We have a remuneration according to euro per point, as I told you. So at the end, we got this public goods bonus. These are the different measures. You can find them in the publications, as I told you. We've got 7 different measures for arable land. We have got 7 different measures for grassland. Also special crops for South Germany, and nutrient balances. So now we concentrate on the 7 measures for arable land and grassland, especially for biodiversity. So from the view of the farmer, he also needs scoring for his own farm. He only needs 3 steps: selection of measures on his iPad, the evaluation of these effects and points, and the monetization to decide either to produce wheat or to produce skylarks. heavily spoken. So actual decisions, Elisabeth told a little bit about that. We have got 2 decisions from the Agri Council and from the Parliament. Elisabeth spoke about that. So we have got result-based payments. The Parliament said on the second line, they want to, they wrote member states shall establish point or rating systems. So we have a small door there to implementate rating or score systems in the new CAP. Steps on national strategic plan process. We've got 9 specific objectives. For example, the specific objective 1A is support viable farm income, and so on. So in the SWOT analysis, for example, in Germany said weakness and threats, farm income is dependent more than 50% of subsidies. So in English spoken, hardly spoken, we have got a lot of junkies there. They are dependent from this official money. This is a weakness, and the threats, opportunities, the stabilization of income by remuneration of these public goods. As I told you before, we see there a new market for farmers, an additional market, of course. So identification of the needs is remuneration for additional public goods. This has to be written down in the strategic plans now. And intervention strategy, for example, Article 28 in combination with 65, we have got indicators there now, the 06B, 013 for Article 65 and so on, and description of interventions, as I showed you. This is important now. This is a process. I don't know the other member states, but in Germany it's very important now to put these in the strategic plans, as I showed you here. So thank you for your attention, Wolfgang. Sorry for delay.
No problem.
I hope I could give you a little appetizer or aphrodisiac, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Do you hear the applause? Also for Elisabeth, before we didn't hear it.
Thank you.
Because we don't have one for nobody. Thank you very much. First of all, I wish you really good success with this system. Maybe you can close the presentation again.
Yep.
Just leave it.
Sorry.
We have 2 questions to that already. What do you think? Sönke is asking by Mark, what do you think how these public good services implemented in the eco scheme will also add value to farm products? Is there any plan?
No. From my side, we have to differ how the money will come to the farm, either through selling, or what's it called, through the distribution, or through the products itself to pay €1 more or 10 cents or anything else. But I'm not sure whether the money will come back to the farm totally. So the other way, and to our opinion, the farmers produce public goods, which are in the responsibility of the state. So we have to put a price directly on the effects of these measures, and have to pay with public money.
Okay, and Remco, or yes, Sonke, I don't know now, is asking how is the value of the point, so the €50, related to the action in the field and the result? Is there any relation, or is that the work of these experts, these scientists?
Yeah, it's a classical economical view. Here I can't show you now, but it's on our homepage, only in German. But it's a real thinking. Which of the measures, for example, does the farmer has normally without alternative, or what's it called, opportunity costs, and for example, when he chooses no fertilizers or no chemistry things, he will have opportunity costs, and these are combinations. What will it bring on effects with €50 the point, and what will the farmer have on additional or opportunity cost. And there's a what's it called in English, break-even point, or a point where the production of wheat is more rentable than the production of skylarks. It's a little bit complicated, but and this bonus system I can't explain you now, but it's a little bit tricky. So the farmer can pick these measures from the menu, and we'll see, for example, from the fourth or fifth measure, for example, the opportunity cost will be higher than the effect from the 50 euro points. In short sentences, now it's a little bit.
Okay.
I'm no economist, but from the thinking.
Great. Thank you very much, Sönke, for this clarification. There's again one, perhaps I missed, but this is a proposal for the government to consider for the eco scheme. Okay. Is this proposal for the government to consider it for the eco scheme? It is, as you mentioned it already, or have you already decided to put this scheme in your strategic plan? Short answer, please.
We've got a decision of our last agriculture ministry conference, and they decided that our proposal might be what's it called, a way to implement the eco schemes in Germany. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much for having your discussion. I have to leave. Not I have to leave, but we have to leave in the plenary session.